Hello everybody, I'm AskJoshy.
And I'm Frank Fields.
And we're bringing you another episode of our pilot series for the Magic Card Review show. We already did Fathom Mage, so you can go check that out. And right now we're going to be reviewing Rubblehulk, which is a creature that costs 1 red, 1 green, and 4 colorless mana. That's 6 altogether. And Rubblehulk's power and toughness are each equal to the number of lands you control, which, you know, is not always going to be 6 when you cast him, depending if you're using mana dorks and things like that.
Yeah, he acceleration can get him out faster, but that's not necessarily going to make him bigger in all cases. Obviously, things like Farseek or Ranger's Path, things like that will definitely make him bigger, but obviously things like Gilded Lotus and Chromatic Lantern and Avacyn's Pilgrim and Arbor Elf are not necessarily going to buff him. Keyrunes also, yeah.
All kinds of stuff can get you to 6 before 6 land will, so that's something to keep in mind when you're playing it. I mean, he could be a 4/4 or a 5/5 for your 6 mana. And the other actual ability that he has is Blood Rush, which is something that the Gruul guild has across all of its creatures, or most of its creatures, I'm assuming. They're not all spoiled yet. But Blood Rush is kind of interesting. It's basically a combat trick that cannot be countered because it is a creature ability. And it says, the actual text is, pay 1 mountain, 1 forest, 1 red, 1 green, and 1 colorless, and discard Rubblehulk. So you can only play Blood Rush if he's in your hand. You pay that 3 mana and discard him to give target attacking creature +X until end of turn, where X is the number of lands you control.
So obviously this has the biggest impact in Limited, where combat tricks are running rampant. And that one is really, really strong. Late game, that will outright just win you the game most of the time. And early game, that can get you in for 6 or 7 damage when your opponent isn't ready for it, which is pretty insane. Yeah,
the one kind of iffy thing about Rubblehulk specifically is that this Blood Rush ability doesn't give you trample.
Right.
So, you know, you make your guy a 25/25, if he doesn't have the, you know, trample or flying or evasion or whatever, it's still useless. So you need to keep that in mind. I'm curious about the stack with Blood Rush. If I play, example, Blood Rush on a Rakdos Cackler or something, and he's going to be, let's say, a pay with 3 land, you know, I have 3 land out, that would make him a 5/5. If someone counters with Annihilating Fire, he'll still die, won't he?
Yeah.
Okay, so it still works on the stack the same way a spell would, even if it's an ability.
Yeah, but it is uncounterable. So the issue then becomes, it messes up a lot of combat math. A lot of times, you know, right now in the current limited format, you have to take into account Selesnya Charm and Giant Growth and things like that when you're, you know, calculating your life total and if you want to block or not. With Blood Rush, it becomes a lot harder because there's so many different Blood Rush creatures that can buff your creatures in a number of ways, and you might just die all of a sudden, or you might lose one of your bombs all of a sudden, or you might be blocking with a first strike creature where then the math doesn't work out after Blood Rush is gone. So you have to be really, really careful when you're going against a Gruul type of aggressive deck. It's a lot different than, say, a Rakdos deck is in Limited right now, or even Selesnya, because Selesnya doesn't have that many more buffing abilities, but Gruul has like so many creatures have Blood Rush.
You could build a pure creature deck where everything has Blood Rush, and you've got so many options, and you can of course mix in Giant Growths, Rancor, whatever you want. Oh, Rancor, that's actually a good thing to bring up. I mentioned earlier, you know, having +10/+10 on a creature is not going to do anything if you don't have Trample, because they can just chump with a 1/1. Rancor fits right in to Gruul aggressive decks, and I think you're going to be seeing a lot of it. But let's go ahead and give some scores. For Rubblehulk itself, again, it's a 6 mana creature that has power and toughness each equal to the number of lands you control, but Blood Rush, the ability to discard it and pay 3 mana to give another creature that same ++, is pretty awesome. So what do you think for Limited?
I think Limited, it's a 4. Basically, if you're playing red and green, you're going to play it no matter what. You're not necessarily going to splash for it, because that's a 2-color splash if you're out of the colors. If it lands as a creature, late game, it's just an absolute house. Like, there's nothing that's going to remove it in combat late game when you're, like, and you're going to stop sandbagging lands in your hand. You're just going to play them out because it's make them bigger and bigger. And even without that, if you have them in your hand and you can just alpha with all your creatures and play them on your unblocked guy, that's going to win the game most of the time. In Constructed, it's probably more like a 2 or 2.5, because, I mean, maybe you can use them as like a 3 mana buffer to, you know, get some damage in or to save something. But most of the time, you're not going to be wanting to use them as a creature. It's a 6 mana 6/6. Or more likely what it's going to be is more like a 6 mana 4/4 a lot of the times, and that's not really that good in Constructed. He doesn't have Trample, he doesn't have a really good way of defending himself, so he's not that good by himself. He's not Thragtusk. He's not even, you know, a lot of things that in the format. But, you know, very, very good and limited. limited.
All right, and limited, I agree. I mean, if you're in Gruul colors, you're gonna want Rubblehulk all the time because having a 3 mana +7/+7 potentially later down the road, you would just hang on to that guy until you can sneak that kill. But in constructed, I think again it's pretty low. With decks that we have now, there's not a ton of combat tricks. Like Giant Growth is not in main deck a lot of
pretty much the only thing is Selesnya, Charm, and Face Shield are the only things you'll see.
Charms and Charms are purely because they have options. You have multiple uses. Blood Rush does not have multiple uses. It's going to make one guy bigger once, and so that really devalued it. I would give it like a 1.5, I think, just because I don't really think it's going to make a lot of decks. 6 mana again, like what was the rule used to be the Titans? Does it stack up to a Titan? Obviously Titans aren't in Standard anymore, but this is no Titan.
And not even close to any of the Titans really, so I mean, I do not think it's going to see Standard play, and if it does see Standard play, it'll only be because of the Blood Rush. It's not really going to be used as a creature.
There could be better Blood Rush cards later on. There's another one already spoiled that gives +9/+9 and Trample for 7 mana. That's amazing. So, Rubblehulk, there you have it. That's it for the review for him. And thanks very much for watching. Follow us on Twitter if you like, and we'll see you for the next review.
Bye, guys.